All right, hey everybody. In this Larabit, we'll talk about passwordless login systems. And real quick, just to make sure we're all on the same page. By that, I mean, you visit a website, you go to the login page, and you see an input for the email address, but nothing for the password. So instead, when you submit that form, a unique URL and a token is emailed to you. And then when you open your inbox, you click that link and bada bing, bada boom, you're instantly logged in to the application. So yeah, we'll talk about this not necessarily from the perspective of an evangelist for this approach. I'm not telling you to switch over. It really just depends on the application, as always. All right, so let's get started from scratch. I will begin by generating a new application, and we'll call it Passwordless Demo. And why don't we go ahead and pull in Breeze, which, to be honest, is a little ironic because that already includes a full registration and login system, but we'll tweak it just a little bit. Awesome, there we go. All right, so let's cd in there and then open it in my editor. All right, and while that's indexing, why don't we view this in the browser? And yeah, here we go. We have a standard installation of Laravel with Breeze. Okay, real quick, let's open up my environment file. And why don't we use SQLite? And actually, we can get rid of all of this in that case. And then I will migrate my database. All right, so do we want to create a database.sqlite file? Yes, I do. And now if I come back, I can register a new user. And yeah, you can see right now, it's asking for a password. You can either keep this or remove it if you exclusively want email-based authentication or login. All right, so we are logged in, but yeah, immediately I'm going to sign out so that we can implement our new system. Okay, so let's see what we got here. I'm going to open up the app HTTP controllers directory. And yeah, here are the auth controllers that Laravel Breeze creates for us. So in our case, what do we want here? How about a new, where are you? Authenticated session controller. Okay, so this handles a visit to the login page. And right now, it loads the following view where it asks for your email address and a password. But yeah, now I'm going to delete that entirely. And that gives us a simple email address. Okay, and then also forgot your password can leave as well. So can I get rid of all of this? There we go, looks good. So now when we submit that form, where does it take us? Well, let's go back to our controller. It's going to hit this endpoint here. And yeah, of course, traditionally, what that's going to do is attempt to log the user in based upon the credentials that they provide. But in our case, we're not going to tackle it in that way. Instead, as we discussed, we will fire off an email to the user that contains a unique URL. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay, so how do we want to handle this? Why don't we just get rid of all of this entirely, like so. And instead, very quickly, let's validate that the email address is required. And then here, generate a temporary URL and email the user. However, before we do that, we should probably determine if there is a user in our application that matches the email address that the user provides. Instead, an alternative approach would be to simply tell the user, hey, if we have an account for that email address, we will send a login link right now. But you never actually confirm whether or not we found a matching record. Okay, but anyways, for now, we will tell them. So why don't we return back to the form with errors, and I'll just write it here, no matching account found. Okay, so why don't we start by testing that out? I will type in gibberish, submit the form, and sure enough, no matching account found. Okay. Otherwise, if we could find a matching account, yeah, it sounds like we need to generate a, well, actually, we should talk about this. There are a couple different ways that we could handle this. Traditionally, what you do is you generate a token, and that token can just be a random string that you associate with the user. So for example, string random, 50 characters, and then you attach that to the user's record in the database. And maybe, to make it simple, you have a login token column directly on the users table. Okay, so now at this point, you find the user and then you update that user's login token field with a random string. Then you fire off an email, you include that token as part of the query string. When they click on the link, it takes them back to your application. You try to track down a user who has that token, and then once again, bada bing, bada boom, you log them in. However, because we're using Laravel, and in this case, I'm using Laravel 10, I think it's even easier if we use a simple temporary signed route. And luckily, Laravel makes this incredibly simple. So let me show you. I can say URL, and I'll pull in the facade here, and I want a temporary signed route. And here we want to give it the name of the route, and we haven't yet worked on that yet. Expiration date could be, how about now, add hour. You have 1 hour to use this link. And then finally, if there's any specific parameter that we need to pass, for example, the user itself, then we can do that here. Okay, so why don't we open up a split, and I will visit my routes file. And if I scroll down, you'll see that Laravel Breeze includes this auth.php section. And I'm sorry, let's just do it all in full screen. All right, let's see what we got. So we have a route to visit the login page. We have a route to handle a post request to the login page. But now, yeah, it sounds like we need another one. We need one that actually performs the login. So maybe login / and then a user ID or something like that. And again, could be a security issue if you include the user ID. So many sites do, including Laracasts. But again, in certain situations, you may not want to do that. So in that case, just use a unique ID or something like that, a UU ID. Okay, let's give this a name of login, I don't know, .token or whatever you want, something that would make sense to you. And then this will hit an action. And usually I like to stick to the 7 RESTful actions. So I might create a new controller here in a real project. But for now, let's just keep it simple. And we'll call it login via token or something like that. Okay, so now I know what my route is. Login / and then a user ID. So if I switch back to our controller, the route will be login token. And then I do need to pass through the user's ID. So I could say user equals user ID. Okay. And you know what? Why don't we do this? Why don't we just return that URL directly from the controller when I submit the form? So let's do it. I used Jeffrey@laracast.com. We log in, and it didn't work. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. These stinky types. All right, one more time. And there we go. So now you can see what has been generated. So a temporary signed route is exactly what you think it is. It is a route that includes the expiration date and a signature as part of the URL. And here's the cool thing. You can't simply copy this and then change it. So your first thought might be, well, what's to keep you from changing the user ID of 1 to 6? And then if you use that URL, instantly you're signed in as the user with an ID of 6. However, because we are using signed routes, that's disallowed. If any piece of this entire URL is changed, it is invalid and your authorization will fail. That is the huge benefit. So yeah, anytime you're in a situation where you want to expose a secure or sensitive operation as a public URL without requiring that the person first log in, this is the approach you want to take. Okay, great. So now I have my link. Let's now email it to the user. And how should we do this? We could do a mailable or we could do a notification. Why don't we take the notification approach so that I can whip it up very, very quickly. So I'll say make notification login or something like that. All right, so let's go into my login notification. And yeah, here, let's quickly generate this. Click here to instantly log in to whatever the application is. In this case, we'll just call it Breeze. All right, log in, and this will be our link. So I could do something like that. And it sounds like we need to send that through, or we could even generate the signed route as part of the notification. But yeah, for now, we'll just say user notify new login. and then I will pass through the link. All right, so now if I come back, we can accept the link, public string link, and then I can reference it like so. All right, click here to instantly log into Breeze. We have a button that includes our signed URL, and we can keep that final line. Okay, so let's do this. This is only for me. You don't have to do this part. But I'm going to pull in Laravel Ray so that I can very quickly view the generated email. Otherwise, just use the log driver for your mail. Okay, give that just 1 second. And yeah, I already have Ray installed, which you can see here. All right, so we can test this out now. I'm going to go back, give this a refresh, type in my email address. And of course, it fails. You know, just once, it would be nice if I do a screencast and everything goes flawlessly, but it never happens. Okay, so anyways, if we scroll up, let's see what the issue is. Connection could not be established with Mailpit. Yes, of course. Let's do this instead. Let's go into my environment file. And for my mail driver or mailer, let's just use log for now. All right, so let's clear that out and give it another shot. Okay, so that refreshed. And now if I come over to Ray, sure enough, we have our email. Click here to instantly log into Breeze. And yeah, you can see here is the link that was sent to the user. Okay, so now if they were to paste this in, well, let's see what it is. Login/an ID. And then again, we include that full unique signature. But at the moment, we don't do anything with it. As you see there, we're going to get a method does not exist. Okay, so that is our next step. Let's go into routes, auth, and let's see. So we handled this, but I have not yet created the action. So I can do it down here. We're being pretty quick, but I think this will all work. Okay, so now here's one issue, and it's a common mistake. Yes, we generated a signed route, but it doesn't magically work. So here's what I mean. If I were to say die and dump, hello there, come back, give this a refresh, I get hello there. Even if I change it, you know, I was just telling you if any part of it is changed, it will fail. But sure enough, we're still hitting that action. And that's because it's not enough to simply generate the signed URL. You also have to authorize or validate it. And luckily, again, with Laravel, it's pretty easy. Let's go back to my auth routes file. And right down here, I'm going to add the signed middleware, as you see here. Okay, so now if I come back and give this a refresh, I already changed that URI, so it's going to fail. And in the situations where it fails, we get a 403 invalid signature. Okay, great. So if we come back to our controller, why don't we simply die and dump the user to see if everything is working. Okay, so one more time. Let's log in a user. All right. We should provide some feedback, and we'll do that in just a moment. But sure enough, the email was sent. I will click on this. Actually, I don't want to do that one more time. I'm going to do it manually. And just to show you, if we were to try to log in a different user, like the user with an ID of 2, well, again, you change the URL, so the authorization or the validation fails. It has to be identical. Change it back to 1. Oh, and that's not working either. That should work. Let's figure this out. So what's the issue here? Login 1 expire. Oh, you know what? That doesn't seem right. That should be an equal sign. Let's go into Ray. Oh, yeah, that's not right. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. Let's have a look. We generate our signed URL. As our debugging, I can pass this to Ray or die and dump if you prefer. Then we go to login. Maybe this can just simply be this link. All right, let's give it another shot. Try to sign in myself. All right, so if we open this up, sure enough, we can see, yeah, that's the URI that we want. So let's copy that and see if it matches. Click here. Oh, that's not working. What's going on here? Now, if I paste in that URL manually, oh, it does work. Okay, well, that's a little bit Weird. What's going on here? Because here's the strange thing. I've done this 100 times. I know this is right. I haven't done it 100 times, but dozens of times. And I know this is right. So here's what I'm thinking. Let's do it one more time and then just check the log file, because maybe there's some weird thing when it gets past array that the URL is being encoded improperly or something like that. So we fired it off. We'll go into my laravel.log file. All right, and we can see, yep, there it is. Okay, so it's just some kind of weird encoding situation. So I'm going to copy that, paste it in, and it works. Okay, but yeah, once again, if I were to tweak it to a different user, well, it's going to fail immediately. And that only works, again, because we added the signed middleware to our route definition. Okay, very cool. So now finally we can get back to work, authenticated session controller. And yeah, right down here, if we hit this point, we're all set to go. So I can simply say auth login user. And then we can basically take them here. So let's say request session. Generally, it's a good practice to always regenerate your session file and delete the old one as part of your login. So we'll do that here and then redirect the user. And really at this point, we'll just take them to whatever is defined here. And in this case, it's their dashboard. All right, so let's have a quick review. You visit /login, you provide an email address, and you submit the form. That will hit this action. Here we make sure that you did provide an email address, and if one exists in our application, we generate a signed URL that includes that unique signature as well as an expiration date, and then we notify the user. Now, as part of that notification, we send them an email that says, click here to instantly log in to Breeze. We include a corresponding link, and they're all set to go. Then, once they click on that link, they are directed to, where are you? They are directed right here. So this has the signed middleware applied, so it's going to inspect that URL to make sure that it has not been changed since it was generated. All right. If they get past that, they hit this endpoint where we log in the user, we regenerate the session, and then we direct them to their dashboard. All right. So cross your fingers. We will log in myself. And we see a white screen. Oh, yeah. It's because right here, when they submit the form, we notify them and then we don't do anything. So of course it displays a blank screen. So why don't we return back to that form? That's fine for now. And I'm going to add a status that says, please check your email for a login link. Okay, so if you're curious about this status item that we're adding to the session, that's because within the auth.login view, you can see they pass, or they look in the session, and if there's anything for status, they pass it to this blade component that simply displays it within a div. Okay, so now, if we give it one more try, there we go. Notice we do have a status. Please check your email for a login link. So I will grab that link, and let's find it. Let's scroll up. Where are you? Where are you? Here we go. This is the URL that we want. So let's grab it and paste it in the browser. And we're in. All right. So yeah, in a nutshell, in a very quick nutshell, if that makes sense, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, that's how you would implement a passwordless login system in Laravel by leveraging temporary signed routes. So finally, I just want to wrap up by restating, I don't think all applications should take this approach. And in fact, most of them, almost all of them, should not. But yeah, every once in a while, you might run into situations where this very much is the way to go. And again, I would point to applications where maybe your users only have a need to log in once or twice a year or something like that. In this case, it's kind of a simple way to go. And it would drastically cut down on customer support threads. Or maybe if your target market is a little older and they don't use password managers and things like that, this might be a good approach as well. But yeah, let me know what you think and if you will be implementing this approach in your applications.